So let's talk about a figure most of us feel like we know pretty well, Abraham. But his story, especially his time in the land of Canaan, is built on this incredible paradox, one so strange it might just flip everything you thought you knew about him. When you picture Abraham, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Probably a humble shepherd, right? Kind of wandering through the desert with his flock of sheep. It's the classic image. But what if I told you it's not just a little off, it's almost completely backward? The truth is actually pretty astonishing. Yeah, you can just toss that poor wanderer image right out the window. When Abraham came back to Canaan after that famine in Egypt, he was loaded. We are talking about massive herds of cattle and just piles of silver and gold. And this isn't some minor detail either. This incredible wealth is the very thing that kicks off the next huge chapter of his life. But here's the thing about that kind of massive success. It created a whole new set of problems. You could call them the problems of prosperity, and they were about to hit Abraham and his nephew Lot head on. The scale of their wealth was just staggering. Between Abraham and Lot, they had so much substance, as the scripture calls it, that the land itself literally could not support both of them in the same area. Their own success was creating friction, and their crews started fighting with each other. And you've got to remember this key piece of context. They weren't moving into some vast, empty wilderness. Nope. The Canaanite and the Perizzite peoples were already there, living on the land. That means resources like good grazing spots and water sources were already scarce. So for Abraham, keeping the peace within his own family wasn't just a nice idea. It was an absolute strategic necessity if they were going to survive. And in the face of all this conflict, you really get to see Abraham's true character. He doesn't go to Lot making demands or pulling rank. He goes to him with a plea for peace. His number one priority is family unity, not personal gain. He knows that if they start fighting amongst themselves, it's game over for both of them. And the offer he makes is just perfect. It's so simple and unbelievably fair. He tells Lot, his junior, "You get first pick. Total choice. If you go left, I'll go right. If you go right, I'll go left." He is literally willing to take whatever is left over, just to put their relationship first. So what does Lot do? He looks up, sees that beautiful, lush, well-watered plain of Jordan, the absolute prime real estate, and he snatches it up. But in choosing the best land, he also pitches his tent toward the city of Sodom, which had let's just say, a really bad reputation. He chose the immediate material payoff, and man, that decision would have some massive consequences down the road. Okay, so right after Abraham does this incredibly generous thing and gives away the best piece of land, something truly extraordinary happens. And this is where the vision for his future clashes hard with his current reality. The moment Lot leaves, Abraham gets this absolutely mind-blowing promise from God. Not just a piece of the land, all of it. North, south, east, west, everything he can see is going to belong to him and his descendants forever. The irony is just incredible, right? He's promised the whole shebang right after he was left with basically nothing. So with this incredible promise in his back pocket, what does Abraham do? Does he raise an army and try to conquer the place? Nope. He packs up his entire household and moves to a place called Mamre. And his first move there, he builds relationships. He makes a peaceful alliance, a strategic partnership with the three brothers who are the local rulers there. He's building power, but not through ownership. He's building it through influence. And this gets us to the absolute core of the paradox of Abraham's life in Canaan. Here was a man with immense power, immense influence, who held zero legal title to the land he was living on. He was building a completely different kind of inheritance. Just let's break this down for a second. The guy is rich in gold and silver. He's politically connected with local princes. He has a divine promise for the whole country. And yet, what was his actual reality? He lived his entire life in tents, like a traveler. He owned no land at all, not even a tiny piece to put his foot on. In fact, when his wife Sarah died, he had to go, hat in hand, and actually buy a small burial plot from the people who legally owned the land. And this wasn't just a temporary setup. It was the defining reality of his entire life. Hundreds of years later, this is the exact point that Stephen makes in the New Testament. He highlights the fact that God gave Abraham no inheritance in the land, not a speck. Abraham's entire claim was based on pure faith in a promise that he himself would never, ever see fulfilled. And that, right there, is the big takeaway. Abraham became this incredibly powerful figure in Canaan, a prince among his peers. But that power didn't come from a deed or a title or a legal document. It was built on something else entirely: his reputation for integrity, his strategic relationships, and an unwavering faith in a future he couldn't yet see. So we end with this thought. Abraham's story really forces you to ask a deep question. He lived as a wealthy, powerful prince who didn't have a home, a landowner who didn't own any land. It challenges us to think about what true inheritance really is, and what it really means to build a future that goes far beyond your own lifetime.